Well, our message title this morning is New Beginnings. What a surprise, right? You know, it'd be something like that. I find it interesting to look at what appears to be the duality, the idea that God has no beginning and no ending, just a variety of changes and shifts throughout eternity. And yet in humanity there appear to be beginnings and endings. And yet, is that the truth? I would say that it really is not, even though it appears to be, and I too call them beginnings. They are just a shift in consciousness, a shift in energy. We do indeed celebrate and mourn many of these beginnings and endings. We are frequently and traditionally known to celebrate and enjoy births and birthdays, although some of us don't. And we are commonly known to mourn deaths, although again, some of us don't. Some of us celebrate all of life. So, New Year. Today is New Year's Eve. I think this is a great time for a message. Let's look at New Year's Eve resolutions. So, I'm around a lot of people in my teaching career, and so I'm very often hearing people throughout the month of December talking about what they plan to eliminate come the new year, or what they're going to be doing differently. Now, I'm not trying to burst anyone's bubble here, but it's just another day. Sure, the calendar is going to change from 2023 to 2024, but yesterday was 12/30 and today is 12/31. So it is always changing, not just at this time. We realize that the calendar is man-made and it was designed to help us keep a timely, organized life in our relationships, especially with schedules and appointment. But truly, there is only the now. So, about these New Year's resolutions, some of the things that I hear people saying are about planning ahead. In December, they're planning ahead for January. And one of the most common ones is, well, my New Year's resolution is going to be to go on a diet. Of course, I'm going to wait till the new year because throughout this season we know there are lots of goodies around and I intend to indulge in those. In fact, I'm probably going to put on about 10 pounds. And of course, I'm not going to say anything, to each their own. But inside, I'm sort of thinking to myself, so you're going to be gluttonous now and then plan to take off the weight. So what I'm really hearing is that you're going to put on the 10 pounds so that you can have a New Year's resolution to take off the 10 pounds. Seriously? My question would be, how's that working for you? And commonly we find ourselves repeating these same habitual ideas over and over. Do you know that statistically, people make the same resolutions year after year after year? So that tells us that there's something we can do new or differently with our energy. So when I meet people who have truly made changes in their life, lifelong changes, I notice several things about that. The first one is they've set a reasonable intention. They haven't made their goal or their resolution so big that they can't possibly achieve it, and they know it before they begin. They set reasonable intentions, and then they design a plan of action. And within that plan of action is definitely one of our favorite Science of Mind ideas, personal responsibility. They have a plan that includes reinforcements, positive affirmations. And usually they've set up a support system, whether it's holding themselves accountable or asking someone else to hold them accountable. They have in place a means to celebrate their achievements and to deeply feel the intrinsic reward, not the extrinsic, not the outer reward, but the inner reward of making significant life-affirming changes. Be sure that you've also considered the why behind your desire to make a change. And one of the most important ones, I think, are you honestly ready to make the change? I think sometimes we make the change and then we waffle back and forth because we weren't really ready to make the change. The person on that diet wants to lose the weight but doesn't want to give up the food. Those are conflicting ideas. And we get to decide which one we take. But we don't have to. We don't have to take that diet. We could simply live with a diet that is in our best interest rather than a specific diet. Get to know our own bodies. And I think we also have to be prepared to experience what is called self-efficacy. This means that as you follow through on your goal, you will have a sense of control over what's happening in your life. Many people move through life willy-nilly, feeling like they're just being pushed and pulled here and there by others and ideas, and they don't have a sense of having control over their own life. And this is so far from true, because whatever we think about, we're bringing about. So they are having control over their life. They're having control over their life by thinking, oh, I'm being pushed and pulled by the world. No, you're not. You're choosing that, so yes, you are. So it's an absolutely taking form because of the thoughts that created it. So once you determine a goal for yourself and you begin to feel success within your goal, I think that this is important because a lot of times we don't feel worthy of it. And what happens when we start reaching a goal is we begin to feel exhilarated. We begin to feel exhilarated by the truths that we have activated in our own life. And so we have to be prepared, be ready to use the power for good in the universe to create more good in your life, not to self-sabotage. Don't set pointless goals, set powerful goals. And then when you realize your power, step into it and enjoy every moment of it. So set goals where you feel the power operating through you for your highest best. Research out of the Ohio State University shows that only 9% of Americans that make resolutions complete them. 23% quit them within the first week, and 43% by the end of the first month. So, did you realize that they actually have named the second Friday in January Quitter's Day? Anybody heard of that? Quitter's Day. And so I was reading about it, and it's the day when if you've fallen off the wagon, you can get back on with that resolution. So have a plan of action, because you might slip, but that doesn't mean you're a failure, and that doesn't mean that you have to give up. That means you slipped, get back on that horse and ride. So why do these well-intended folks fall or fail at their resolution? The study gives 4 reasons. The first one they give is the goal is set because of tradition. Happy New Year. Instead of being a vision for what you would like your future to look like. So goals should begin where there is a need, where you feel a need for a change in your life and you decide that you're ready to make that change, then create that plan of action. But don't just do it because everyone is and people are saying, so what's your New Year's resolution? I don't have one. I'm just living my best life. The second one is an obstacle gets in the way of the goal. So one should consider the possible obstacles ahead of time and then create a plan to avoid any of the barriers or setbacks that might occur along the way. And I would say, like with the dieter, one of those would be if you suddenly realize that you binge ate all those brownies you made, instead of giving them to the neighbor like you had planned, you say, okay, this is one incident, now is a new moment. That's behind me, it's in the past, don't revel in it, and move forward with your plan. The third one is that the goal set is too big or not really a measurable challenge. Data from their study shows that if you set challenging, measurable goals, you are more likely to be motivated to reach them and become inspired by them. And the last one is there's no accountability. I've talked about this one quite a bit because it's suggested that you write down your goal, your vision for yourself, but also that you engage a method of accountability outside of just yourself. Tell a trusted friend, I'm going to add practitioner or minister, join a group, hire a coach, or use technology. You can do it by yourself on your own phone, a lot of times just by keeping notes in there. The university study shows that people are twice as likely to achieve their goal if they write it down and use an accountability system. So last week we spoke about the energy of life, and today we're going to broaden our understanding of how to use this life energy in a significant way toward our personal new beginnings.
Yeah, so I just had this thought, maybe coming out of the miracles of the Christmas season, we decided that we need to look for opportunities to create miracles in our own personal lives. So therefore we make resolutions, hoping that we will actually see one come true and have a miracle in our own personal lives. Einstein says we have to decide whether there are no miracles at all or if everything is a miracle. In Science of Mind, we have the saying that there is no time in God, because God is infinitely eternal, so therefore there, by necessity, there can never be a beginning or an ending to anything. But we in human form have clocks, and we watch the seconds go by, tick, 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 and every tick is a now moment. And every now moment is an opportunity to experience something different, to have a new beginning. Every now moment is a new beginning. It doesn't necessarily need to progress from the past. It can start right here and right now in this now moment. So every thought is creative, and so therefore every thought can manifest. So every second, every tick of the clock is an opportunity to create something new, either from what occurred before or just completely new all by itself. Life is constantly growing, expanding, evolving, flowing, and developing. And as according to Newton's law of thermodynamics, energy and matter are never created or destroyed, but transforming. So life is constantly transforming from one experience or one expression into another. Einstein began his scientific investigation by trying to determine the nature of light. He found that light did not move from particle to particle, as would be necessary in a material-based scientific study, but that light travels as a constant energy field, moving independent of a materialistic environment. This led him to also understand that matter is made of energy, hence his relativity theory that states that energy is matter at the speed of light squared. The important part of that for us to remember is that matter is energy. So everything in life, everything you experience in life, matter or otherwise, is energy. We could also reduce the statement and simply say, life is energy. It's really that simple. As we move through the journey of life, we transform from one life experience into another. We not really create new experiences as much as we transform from one life experience into another. Life is a constant flow. This is like the idea that we can't step into the same river twice. The river is constantly moving and changing, so every time we step into it, it's a different river. Life is like a river, constantly growing, expanding, flowing, developing, evolving, constantly transforming. And as we walk along the journey of life, we may follow along stepping stones or sidewalks or gravel, asphalt, boardwalks, carpet, ceramic tile, you name it. We may get mired in the mud and challenged by inclines, or we may simply slide down hills. The important point to remember is that the aspects of the journey transform, but the journey itself is constant. Life is constantly, eternally flowing, although how we experience it is constantly changing. We sometimes tend to get caught up in the momentary aspects of life and forget about the overall journey. You know that saying that the journey is more important than the destination. But I believe that destinations are nothing more than transition points, time for a new beginning.
Can you just see yourself? I don't know where you see yourself, but as David was talking about the many different ways that each step is a new beginning. I saw myself walking through the river and the stones along the way. And I imagine that you pictured yourself somewhere. I love nature. So each step that we take, each goal that we set is a new beginning. It doesn't have to be like that same old resolution we had before. And so some other ways to do it besides ideas that come from studies. Ernest Holmes gives us a great quote. He says, "You need not mold your life after another. Trust yourself. Believe in your direct relationship with life, capital L, and you will not be disappointed. Do not wait. Today is the time to start. Right where you are is the place to begin." So let's unpack that quote just a little bit. You need not mold your life after another. Trust yourself. I think of the many expectations placed upon us by society to conform to a specific way of being. And Ernest Holmes is telling us, trust yourself. And he doesn't put a capital S on that, but we know that as we are of God and live as God, we have access to every divine idea possible. And so sometimes when we open up to that splendid, magnificent warehouse in the sky, we pull in something that we had never thought of before as an answer to whatever our question is. And that's trusting ourselves when we take action upon that idea. Trust yourself. Within you lies the magnificence of life. You can follow your heart, follow your own intuition. Do no harm. And the second part he says there is, believe in your direct relationship with life and you will not be disappointed. The most valuable, important, significant thing we can do for ourselves is to spend time in the silence with our inner divine. To know that our relationship with God is so front and forward that nothing can stop us from anything we desire. Because God has our back. Believe in that relationship. There's that quote, know thyself. That means give attention to your relationship with God, that creative force of life within you. And then the third, I kind of combined some of the sentences together. He says, do not wait. Today is the time to start. Right where you are is the place to begin. So there's no need to wait for anyone or anything. Sometimes we put off what we know we should be doing right then. We've received the message, we know what to do, we know the time is now, and we say, well, I'm just going to wait till tomorrow because tomorrow's New Year's Eve, tomorrow's New Year's Day, and that's when everyone does it. Or we give some other excuse to ourselves. Well, I'm going to be doing this in next week, so I'll start after that. Really? Will you? How's that working when we put things off? There's no need to wait. Once you have defined a goal for yourself, begin immediately following your inner guidance and direction for its perfect outcome. We remember that all that is new emerges from within us.
And of course, there's always the challenge. If we do everything that we plan to do and we follow through with our resolution and so forth, sometimes there are doorways and doors, not doorways, but doors and obstacles in the way. And we have to look within ourselves and find the method to get around and through that, to have the intention to move through. Emerson says, every wall is a door. He also says, be an opener of doors. Profound, isn't it? What he's talking about is the idea that life experience, despite its appearance, has great potential. And we have within us to rise to that potential. If the conditions in your life are not as you wish them to be, and you're finding all kinds of reasons to have resolutions to get through those conditions in life, here's an easy one. All you have to do is just let go. Because you're the only one holding on to that condition in the first place. Just let it go. Going back to the metaphor of the river, we cannot experience the flow of life if we hold on to the shore or drop an anchor. Stability is not always our friend. Here's a scary thought. We can only experience life to its fullest by going with the flow. Also, we experience more challenge when we attempt to go upstream. If you constantly find life to be a struggle, maybe you're moving in the wrong direction. Maybe you're not following a path that is yours. It's not your own path. When we do what is ours to do, there seems to be less opposition. Emerson says, we are all inventors, each sailing out on a voyage of discovery, guided each by a private chart of which there is no duplicate. The world is all gates, all opportunities. The key is to let go of whatever is keeping us from evolving into our greater good. And the key is found within. Paul Bunyan's allegory, Pilgrim's Progress. I read this many years ago, and I've gone back and read it a couple of times because I think it's quite a fascinating story. It talks about man's travel from life, human experience, into heaven. And the main character, Christian, and his companion, Hopeful, are captured and imprisoned by a giant named Despair. They are held in a dark dungeon deep inside Doubting Castle, where the two pilgrims suffer terribly. Christian's thoughts descend to levels of great disparity, and after several days, one morning, just as dawn is breaking, Christian realizes that he has the key called promise on a chain around his neck, resting right beside his heart. In his despair and pain, he had completely forgotten all about it. The turn of this key opens every door and gate, and the pilgrims quickly make their escape from Doubting Castle and back to the King's Highway and begin their journey once again to heaven. All the pilgrims had to do was release despair and doubt and get back on the path of heaven. They had to release the doubt and despair. I think it's ironic that the whole time that Christian was in prison, he was with his friend, hopeful, but he needed the key of promise to carry him through.
And so sometimes we live in that doubting castle. But we are going to have an opportunity now to engage in our releasing ceremonies.